Okay, I'm going to talk about Altamira first. So we're going to jump into updates. Altamira put out a really nice, really solid hole this week at Maria Bonita. This is the target that if you think back to when we first invested in Altamira, which was in 2021, was driven mainly by there were two targets that I really like. Motum, which is at Apiakis. A lot of people think Matum is been forgotten about. It actually hasn't. They've been doing some work over there. I think they'll have some news on that over the not too distant future. But then over here at Cajuero, they have this Maria Bonita target, which is a big gold and soil anomaly that they've now drilled, and they've proven to the world that this is a new gold discovery. Okay, now this Cajuero project already had a resource of I think around 600,000 or 700,000 ounces at 1.2 gram, I think somewhere in there. Not huge grades, but in in Brazil, uh, these kind of deposits make it. Okay, there's a lot of companies down in Brazil that are operating large open cast mines and doing quite well. In fact, Kinross, Paracatu grades are less than half a gram in pit. Okay, but then you have um, other companies like our Brazilian friends there. Tavi, help me out. Or Aura Minerals, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
or a
Thank
mineral. Yeah.
you. Okay, Aura Minerals have several mines operating in the kind of 1 gram or just under 1 gram range, but they're making good money. Okay, this is a place where you can operate deposits like this, and we know the metallurgy from Maria Bonita and Cajuero is very favorable. It's amenable to large scale processing, mining and processing. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so what attracted Altamira to this area in the first place was that white dash line there. You see, that is the gold in soil anomaly. But they did geophysics that then showed, hey, there's this funny anomalous magnetic low area, this blue, that also seems to be associated with this anomaly. Okay, so basically they drilled their holes within that zone, and I have a 3D model. I'm going to show it to you here in just a jiffy. But virtually all of the holes, not all of them, but pretty close to all of them in this footprint, have now come back with good results. Now, what is this target? Well, this is, in my view, it is a reduced intrusive target. So it's very similar in many respects to things we might see in the Yukon. Okay. The biggest difference is, though, this is a very old terrain. Okay. These rocks are Proterozoic in age. So they go back, they're a billion plus, we'll call it, years old. So these are pretty old rocks, sets them apart from stuff up in the Yukon by several 100 million years. But in spite of that, geology is almost identical. All right. Now, um, one of the things about these rocks being old is that this terrain has gone through a lot of tectonic activity over time. And in the past, I've described how when you get continents colliding and rocks interacting, they can get folded up almost like taffy. Okay, so one of the things, or one of the ways you should think of this is a snowline type deposit that's probably been twisted and turned and folded and maybe strung out over a bigger footprint. Does that matter? Well, no, because it's probably a big gold system, but it is complicated. It's more complicated than say the valley deposit, and I'll show you here in a minute what I mean. Go to the next slide. The rocks look like this. Okay, so this is in an intrusive rock. I believe this is rhyolite in this case, maybe like a rhyolitic dome or something. But you can see the veining in there. They get the sheeted veining, so those gray features, that's quartz veining. The gold occurs apparently within, little tiny grains within the quartz veining. And there is at least appreciable, some visible gold. There's appreciable visible gold in these veins in places. And because of that, the company is going to do some photon assay work. Okay, I talked to Michael about this when the first results came out. I said, it's probably worth your time because you're seeing particulate gold. It's probably worth your time to assay a hole or two by photon assay just to see if that those nuggets of gold don't actually contribute more grade to the system. All right, so they're going to give that a go. They're going to actually ship up some samples from, I think, 2 core holes and try assaying using photon assay. We here at Crescat, we did invest in a photon assay company that's operating in North America. They were able to secure several Chrysos machines, and to be frank, anybody that's not using it here in North America is a fool, because the turnaround is so much quicker. I guess I'm giving a bit of an ad pitch here, sorry, but the turnaround is so much quicker, and the results are very, very solid. Why? Because Chrysos uses a 500-gram chart. The little canister that you use to analyze holds 500 grams of crushed material. Okay, so when you take the core, you don't have to crush it, pulverize it, and then take a 30-gram split or a 50-gram split, which is very small. Like 30 grams is like a tablespoon, okay? You can do 500 grams, which is a half a kilo. It's about a pound, a little over a pound, in fact, of material. And what that means is your representativity of those nuggets in your sample is better. It accounts for those nuggets, those little grains of gold that are present. So we'll see. Maybe they come back. We find out, hey, the grade's a bit higher than we thought originally. But anyway, it is. This is what the core looks like. Very low sulfide, very metallurgically friendly. Because of the low sulfide, the cyanide should be able to attack this without too much complication and extract that gold. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, this is a cross section through the area they've drilled. And you remember how I said this is kind of chewed up like taffy or stirred up. Okay, you can see this isn't just one big blob. Okay, you can see it's probably a feature that went up and is now eroded at surface, but it's come back down into the ground. They see different rock types that are folded up, rhyolites and other intrusive rocks as well. But it's the rock types that apparently control where the gold is. Okay, so they're starting to learn, hey, there's certain rocks that host the higher grade gold here. And this is very, very revealing. I mean, it tells us a lot. It also shows us that the system is wide open. Okay, so now we have a profile here of about 200 meters vertical, at least, say, from surface down to depth, and it is open at depth. And we're starting to see some breadth to this thing. It's in this image, it's about 200 or 300 meters, wide in this cross section that's now defined by these drill holes. I'm now going to jump over and show you in 3D what is going on here. And let's see if I can do this without screwing up. Let's see, window. Here we go. For a viewer. Hopefully that's showing. Is it?
Yes.
Thank you very much. All righty. Okay, so we're going to go to that image. Basically, this is the magnetics that we saw a couple slides back. But underneath here, you can see I got the drill holes. All right, so we're gonna look at this thing first. So they've drilled a footprint that's about like from this hole here all the way over to this. What is it? This hole over here is maybe 700 or 800 meters in that direction, and then from north to south, it's maybe 300 or 400 meters this way. Okay, so all of the drill holes that you see in this image fit in a box about 800 meters by 300 meters. That's a pretty big volume of rock, and they've tested it now down to about 200 meters depth. Okay, so we're talking about some pretty big tonnage, like tens of millions of tons within this image. Now, the gold anomaly, as originally defined, was this thing right here. Okay, but what I found really interesting about these results, I'm going to turn the surface off here, and everybody that's watching YouTube, okay, you can play with this over the weekend, but this scale bar down here in the lower right is the scale bar. If I zoom in and out, you see how it changes, so you can kind of hold your mouth and measure things using that. Anyway, what I found very interesting, by the way, there's some holes that don't have assays yet, so we have some other news coming probably in the not too distant future, so hold your breath on those. So anything is blank, it's probably a hole to be assayed. But what we see is a pretty well-defined gold deposit emerging here. One of the things that caught my attention, though, is this hole right here, number 22, actually has some pretty high grades from grassroots down that suggests there might be something more going on back behind it to the south. Okay, so I think that's quite interesting. There might actually be more volume. There's nothing cutting it off in that direction. And then over here where we see the high grade, there's clearly a cluster about maybe 200 meters wide right in here where we're seeing high grades. And it looks like it has a plunge to the north. It looks like it's going down into the ground in this direction. So, it could be that there's more to be found down in this location. And then way over here, this hole is very interesting as well. You can see a hole here which has two big gold hits plus a high grade interval right there. Okay, it's hole 25. Okay, even though hole 19 didn't have a reportable assays like significant gold, this one does. Okay, so all of a sudden the system is, it's coming back to life over here. So it is a bit more complicated than, say, a valley type system, but in my view, it's still open in all directions. Like it's open to the south in that direction. It's certainly open to the west because of this hole. It's open to the north and then down plunge. Okay. So, they've done a good job starting to expand this. If I had to just kind of do an arm wave, I would say they probably have a few tens of millions of tons here that's grading, somewhere between 0.6 and 0.8 grams on average, weighted average, maybe something like that. People say, that's not so high grade, but don't forget, this is all likely heap leachable stuff, and they already have 600,000 or 700,000 ounces not too far away. So, for the company to make this kind of progress with a very modest scale drill program is great to see. Don't forget, we started with 3 holes, I think, that had gold a year ago, and now we have a whole bunch in here. Okay, so watch this space. I think this thing will grow. That gold anomaly continues to the north. Don't forget that. All right, let me see. I'm going to stop sharing there, and I'm going to go back to there. We are. Go to the next slide. Now I'm going to talk about Sika. A lot of people email me about Sika. They say, "Oh, that's a bit deep, isn't it?" No. I'm going to show you why this all works very clearly. I got a 3D model, and that's the beauty of what we do here at Crescate is we do the deep dive. We get the data from the news release and we put it into the computer, and we can say stuff that's intelligent about it. Okay. Now the headline hole here is actually 351 meters of 0.85 grams. Okay, so like in that gram meter table I showed a few slides back, that's a big intercept. It's like a 300 gram meter hole. Not bad. Resounding discovery hole. I mean, like they already had a discovery. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying there's no question when you hit a 300 gram meter hole, that's a winner. Okay, and that's actually pretty much in line with a lot of the drilling that Snowline has had. Okay, so I'm not saying this is exactly the same as Snowline, but I'm saying that in terms of reduced intrusive and the quality of mineralization you're hitting, this is looking pretty good. There's obviously some higher grade subintervals within this. 154 meters of nearly 1.5 gram gold, 37 at 3, 8 at 4.6. Those are great numbers. Great numbers. Let's go to the next slide. And they're focused along this intrusive, the granite intrusive that you see here. It's almost like a clothespin in a way because it branches out at the south end there into two dike-like features. But they drilled hole 158, number 58 that we're talking about now, about 70 meters north of hole 57, which they completed earlier in the season. Okay, that's really opened up things down here. But I'm going to show you in 3D just a second. You'll see what I mean. Go to the next slide. Okay, here's a cross-sectional view that includes hole 47. Hole 47 was really the first hole that they hit the higher grade mineralization last year. I think it was around September or October they announced that hole. And it really caught my attention because of the style of mineralization, the sheeted quartz veining. There are specks of visible gold like they see at Snowline, but it's also got that very interesting porphyritic granite where you see these big crystals of feldspar, white feldspar floating in a finer grain matrix. And to me, that smells like the tippy top of a much, much bigger, intrusive, and likely gold system that's associated with it. All right, so what we have here is hole 58 going much deeper than hole 47. In fact, each one of those lines, those horizontal lines, is 100 meters. Okay, so that's a big step. Okay, I mean, basically, we're looking at a high-grade system that has a profile of about 400 meters at this point. That's pretty cool. Okay, so you can imagine something that's 400 meters tall at least. Now, let's see what it's doing in and out of the section. Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, I forgot I have this one. This is a little 3D rendition showing holes 47, 57, and 58. And it's trying to give folks a sense of the spacing between all the holes, which I think is a fair way to portray this by the company. I think this is a good way to show things. So it's saying, hey, there's 200 meters between, the two holes that are deeper, so 57 and 58, and the upper hole, which is 47. And it's saying there's about 60 meters, I guess 60 meters horizontally between 57 and 58. That's interesting. It's good for the company to communicate that, but I'll show you the 3D model and put it in better context here. Go to the next slide. Okay, now the company did also inform us what their plans are. Okay, and I think this is really nice. The company drilled those holes, and they're sticking to the script. I will give the company that. They are doing what we asked them to do, test those 2 deep holes, and then now they're laying out plans for the rest of the summer. Okay, now I can see what they got going. So one of the things they're going to do is that big red oval there. They're going to chase the system that they have in holes 57, 58, and 47. They're going to chase it further to the south. I'll show you more about that in a second. But they're also going to start testing that area off to the east there that has a lot of really strong surface geochem expression, but hasn't really been drilled yet. Okay, you recall they drilled some holes here at Blackjack and Eiger back over the past 2 or 3 years. Came up with a resource, a very early inferred resource of about 1.3 million ounces. But now they're starting to fill in some of the holes. And I think that's really important because that area between, it's clear as a bell that they're going to all be connected at some level. Okay. But they've already, they're going to go ahead and tackle these targets to show that is the case. Go to the next slide. Okay. So they put in this map, which is really nice to see. Okay. This has a number of proposed holes, the blue holes, and it shows how they're going to test the continuation of that high grade area. They're going to chase it southward. Okay, now if you look at the scale of what we're dealing with, you can now see there's probably 500-600 meters of strike that they're going to test in that high grade area. Okay, this gives us something to dream about. All right, so imagine having 400 meters vertically. I showed you that a couple slides back. And now you got about 600 meters horizontally if these holes hit. Okay, and the high grade zone is 100, 150 meters wide. You can start to see that there's a good shot of finding a few tens of millions of ounces here, or excuse me, a few tens of millions of tons here that might host a few million ounces. And that's a reasonable target. Okay, so this is starting to really crystallize in my mind. Like I can see where at the end of the season, I'm not saying they have a resource, but what I'm saying is they have enough space and breadth to their drilling that we should get a sense if they have a multi-million ounce target at hand here. Okay, let's see. I think I have to go now to screen share. Sorry. Window, boink, share. Okay, I got to go to Sika. There we go. All right, so you can see this, correct?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So this red blob is the polygon of the resource. All right. So the first thing I'll point out is that this high grade that we're talking about is actually south of the resource. So everything in holes 47, 57, and 58 is not included with this resource. That's really important. You can also see that target they want to test over here. There's a few scant holes, but not really much. Okay, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. Anyway, we're going to look at this area that we know continues to the south here. These granite dikes that continue in this direction, because this is where they're going to test this year. All right, so we're going to click on the 3D model. We're going to get rid of that surface for just a jiffy, so we can see what the heck's going on. Okay, the first thing I'll do, I'll turn it on its side here. Again, the scale bar is way down here in the lower right. Look at this. There's Eiger over here, and this is blackjack here, and then this is that saddle or connection zone or whatever they call it right here. Okay, I'm telling you, like, these things are not forming from different systems. They're all connected somehow. At what level, I don't know yet, but I wouldn't be surprised to see as they drill more holes, say in here and in here, there's, it's like play connect the dots. I think we're going to see a lot more connection between the system here. Now, where I'm going to take you right now is right here, okay, because that's the hole that just came back, hole 58. All right, so we're going to center the image on that. This is hole 57, by the way, and this is hole 58, and then this one up here is 47. Okay, so right now they've tagged a pretty high-grade feature down here, and it's wide open to the south. If I turn it around this way, there's nothing out here. Okay, so what they're going to do is they're going to drill holes in this area. Don't worry about these. These are in the foreground. Okay, but they're going to drill holes. Let me see if I turn it this way. So now we're looking west in this area to see if they can't chase this high-grade zone out in this direction. I think they'll also test it at shallower levels here, too. One of the thing people ask me, say, "Oh, isn't this kind of deep?" Well, guys, look, they haven't done any drilling up here yet, okay? Up here is still open as well. Okay, my hunch is we're going to see this high-grade zone extend to the south, and we're also going to see it extend and reach up closer to the surface, too. Okay, but it also connects with the rest of the blackjack zone, which is over here. This is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. In fact, just casting my eyeball, like if you had to start an open pit, this high grade is pretty much right at surface. So you could drop a pit in here and grab that, but then you can start to step down and expand the pit. And I have a feeling we're going to have a bunch of high grade sitting right in here that will just pull the pit in that direction. Okay, so I see absolutely no problem whatsoever with this. They need to explore the absolute bejeebers out of this place and show that there's a whole bunch of ore right here. What really gets me stoked is the grade. Okay, this stuff that's that's highlighted here in the purples. Look at the grade bar over here. Okay, this shows you the grades of gold. Oh, it says snow line up there. I have to tell Kevin to fix that. Sorry. Should say Sika. Anyway, it shows you the grades of gold that we have here. And these are really strong grades, guys. I mean, there's a lot of bulk underground mines, gold mines, that are mining 1.5 grams underground. Like the Goldex in Quebec and stuff. Push came to shove, and you had to mine it underground. You got enough width here. It's huge. So even that would work. So, look, in my view, those who don't appreciate Sika yet will over time. I think Sika is kind of where Snowline was in the early days. But I think over the course of this summer, as they drill more holes, especially in this area, okay, and if we see those high grades continue, people are going to be, come August, okay, my prediction is come August, people are going to be saying, wow, these guys might have 4 or 5 million ounces. Yep. And, I hope I'm the first to say it. So that's my 2 bits. But anyway, there's your high grade starter right there. They drop the pit there, and they keep dropping it down, and they start to grab this high grade down here, or else they bulk mine it underground. I don't care. Either way, this will work. Not worried. Okay, let's go back. All right, next slide. Okay, Brixton put out this news release. I think within the past week or so. It talks about their exploration programs at the Thorn property. This is way up in the northwest corner of British Columbia. It's outside of the Golden Triangle, actually. It's north of the Golden Triangle. And in these highlights, not only do they talk about drilling at Camp Creek, again, trying to focus on that higher grade core to the Camp Creek porphyry, they're going to test 3 new copper targets in this calendar season. Okay, so they've actually mobilized. They're out in the field. This is a good one to keep an eye on now that we know they're back to work. Back to work. That's our theme this week. Okay. And they're going to test some new targets like the trifecta target, Cirque copper moly target, and the North copper target. And I haven't really talked about any of those for quite some time. Probably should do a rebrief of Brixton at some point here. But this is nice to see. They're back in the saddle. Copper's a great theme this year. And I think this could be good to have a very, very good year. Don't forget, BHP's a big backer. We're a big backer. This is an exciting story. And they also have that work going on with Ivanhoe up in Montana as well. All right, go to the next slide. Hannon announced another porphyry. They've been having these, this porphyry exploration, this Provisto Central in kind of east or northeast Peru. This is over on the east side of the Andes. And they found yet another porphyry in this cluster. It's a bunch of Miocene age porphyries. What does that mean? Well, it's the same age as a lot of the big porphyries that we see up in, going on up into Ecuador, for example, like Sol Gold's porphyry and such like that. So, it has that smell. It's an alkaline porphyry. It's got the gold signature to it. It's got a pretty big footprint here. It sounds like the gold and copper numbers are extensive over 1 kilometer. Okay. And quite frankly, this is a walk-up drill test, in my view. They do have a broad potassic anomaly, which means they're probably down into the core of the system. And that means they're erosionally, they're down in the sweet spot of the system. I'd like to see them drill these things. Dias are getting approved in Peru much quicker. I'm finding as I jump back into Condor that I'm, blessed with good news here that the process for getting a dia is quicker these days. And I would expect Hannon's going to make a beeline. Tech, don't forget, is a big supporter of the company, as are we. All right, go to the next slide. And last but not least, Kuya Silver, I got to hand it to these guys. They have opened up Bethania once again, and they're producing ore. Okay, this is wonderful to see. You think about the struggles that these companies have gone through over the past 3 years or so as the market's really been tough. Okay, and to see Bethania get funding, through, I think it was entirely through Trafigura, if I remember right. In fact, I think I see the guys from Trafigura next week here in Denver. So I'll ask, but they pulled it off. They pulled this off in one of the worst markets we've all seen in ages, and they're producing ore. Now this is going to be toll milled. Okay, so they're going to haul this material down to a toll mill, and they'll get their revenue by being paid for the metal contents or the products that are produced from these. But it's a cheap, easy way to bootstrap a mine here, and good on Kuya for pulling it off. All right, so I'll be anxious to see if the silver price is going up. A little story like this that looks like a small story could become a pretty meaningful story, and very, very, very quickly.